Hey guys, welcome to the Laying Foundations podcast. This is your co-host Davis Hambrick. Joining alongside me today is Walker Lott. What's up, Walker?
What's up, Davis? You've gotten better at the intros. We've gotten a lot better at the intros from when we first started.
Yeah, I'm not stumbling and bumbling and fumbling around, right? I'm still mumbling, but not the other stuff.
Not bumbling, just mumbling.
There you
Where
go.
you want to be.
That's right. Right where we need to be.
Today, guys, we have an awesome guest. He was really, really fun to talk to. Really cool dude. Smart. I mean, just everything he says really smart and incredible experience. He goes all the way from being working for his father in a construction company to starting a construction company to starting a real estate firm, investment firm. Now he does real estate, a ton of real estate, invests in different projects such as apartment complexes and restaurants. He even says he owns an Ace Hardware. Just all over the place. Really, really entrepreneurial mindset. Honestly, just a ton to learn from. I'm really excited to listen to it again and get to pick up on the things that I missed. But his name is Stewart Beal. He owns Beal Capital. So give him a look. Davis, what did you think?
There's two things, Walker. I think one of the really cool perspectives he talked about was talking about how you delineate real estate through construction. As we went through the building science program, and most of the guys graduating all go work for GCs. We're in that mindset, but we know of real estate. We know about people
Right.
that do this, and we don't really know what is that term, because there are people that I know, like kind of like Stewart, that run a real estate company, but they also perform work. They have carpenters. They do demo, and so he delineates that and provides that definition of what real estate and construction is. And really, in the grand scheme of things, real estate is working for yourself while you have the capability of doing construction. And I
Yeah.
thought that was a really cool way of looking at it, because he talks about how at the end, which I thought was even cool, even better, was there's a lot of people going to a construction management degree. Hey, that's two of us on this call, and he says, spend or stay below your expenses,
Yeah.
save your money, look for places in the community that you're in for opportunities to invest. And then if you're an expert at carpentry, or if you're an expert at whatever that is, go do it. And that way you can provide a service to that first property that you got to invest in, but also you're getting to learn in the process. And to me, that was a really cool thing. Those two perspectives and how he defined that was worth the whole podcast in itself.
Oh, for sure. I mean, honestly, he is a prime example of if you want to do something, then just go out there and do it. Just figure it out as you go and start something. It's really interesting looking at the perspective that he has, because he talked about running a demolition company for a while. And so one of the questions we asked is, would you still do that again? And he said, I would specialize even more so than I did. I'm like, man, that you don't ever think about it. Most people go the kind of, I want to start this and that, but they don't really start thinking about the specialized, like a niche in the market that they want to go into. And Stuart's really good about finding that and kind of just running with it. But guys, I want you to listen to this. Can't wait for you guys to hear it. Without further ado, Stewart Beal. This is for editing purposes at the end of this. You can tighten that up a little bit and cut out the part where I would recommend invest with him, because I don't know the guy and I don't know who he is. Right. But just say, like, if you want it, you can end it at, if you're interested in investing in real estate, go check him out. So then it's up to them. I don't want to be responsible for, well, he told me I should go check into it, and then he screwed me.
Yeah.
Just trying to be safe.
Yeah, I see that. You're thinking over there.
Welcome to the show, Stuart. We're really excited to have you on here. This is going to be an awesome podcast. So just to begin with, we know a little bit about you. You've done some construction in the past and do real estate now, and you have a couple of different companies from what I have seen. So just to start off with, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what do you do?
Yeah, hi, my name is Stewart Beal with Beal Properties, and I recently formed a company called Beal Capital, the sponsor real estate investment opportunities for investors. I come from a construction family, and I live in Ypsilanti, Michigan, where we manage 1,000 apartments in the city around Eastern Michigan University. And it's in Washtenaw County, which is near Ann Arbor, so it's a good place to do business. And that's what we do right now.
How did you get into construction? I know your family, you said you had a family background. How did you grow up going on job sites with family? How'd you get involved in that?
Yeah, so my grandfather in 1962 bought a construction company, and he renamed it to be called JC Beal Construction. And from 1962 to 1980, he ran that company. And then in 1980, my father and my uncle joined the company, and they did 2,500 construction projects for the University of Michigan
Oh, wow.
over 30 years. They employed as many as 175 construction tradesmen over the years. They were a union company, then they were a non-union company, and they really specialized in historic renovation at the University of Michigan because the University of Michigan owns hundreds of historic buildings. And I grew up going on job sites, but it wasn't like a lot of people in construction where they're going to a job site working with their dad. My dad at that point was an executive managing a company with 175 employees. So yes, I did go to the job sites, but I was working with people that worked for him. I wasn't working side by side with him. He was in the office.
Different field.
But yeah, the first job I ever had was a company built or renovated a pool called the Canham Natatorium at the University of Michigan, and the roof immediately failed. And they hired JC Beal Construction to replace the roof on a facility that has several Olympic-sized swimming pools in it. So it was a huge pool complex. And my first job was every morning I took a shop vac and sucked up all the water that had leaked in over the last rain. I did that all summer, basically, just
Grunt work.
sucked up water all over the facility because this thing would leak real bad in a heavy rain. It would take multiple days to track down where all the water was. So that was my first job on a construction site. And growing up, I had a lawn care and landscaping business. Where I wasn't doing that, I would work on a job site, and mostly I would go to a job site that was in biking distance of my house. And I was real lucky in that way, where I was growing up amongst the job sites, so I could bike to a job site, and I would just clean up the job site for a couple of hours, after school.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that? I mean, I think that's an amazing opportunity as a kid to be thinking that your family's getting to renovate historic, iconic places of Michigan. I've never even been to the university, but I know about the landscape of Michigan. What was that like? Do you ever think you might, as a kid, maybe taking that for granted of, wow, I'm a part of the Michigan legacy. I mean, to me, that just blows my mind.
Yeah, so I never really thought about it that way. Just growing up in Ann Arbor, it's all University of Michigan, University of Michigan. I didn't view myself as special or unique in that way. I mean, a lot of my friends' parents, instead of renovating buildings at University of Michigan, they were professors at University of Michigan, or they were doctors at University of Michigan. So, I mean, pretty much everybody I knew had a family member that worked at the University of Michigan. So I didn't think I was unique and special in that way, but it is very cool to drive around Ann Arbor and say, I worked at that building, I worked at that building, I worked at that building. My family also built probably about 30 restaurants in Ann Arbor as well. So, we go to eat at the restaurants that we worked at. And I tell funny stories about, I used to work here at 2 a.m, because when you're renovating a restaurant, you got to work at night a lot of the time. And so I've got, good stories about buildings around town. It's definitely something to be proud of. Again, like, in addition to the 2,500 projects I did for the University of Michigan, they probably did another 2,500 projects around town. So, yeah. And there's a couple buildings that my uncle always says, like, well, we renovated that 3 times, because it was this restaurant, then we turned it into this restaurant, then we turned it into this restaurant. So it's kind of like a long thing. And JC Beal a couple of years ago had their 50-year anniversary. And yeah, it's definitely something to be proud of for sure.
That's awesome.
Okay, I was about to ask. You answered it for me if they were still operating and doing construction projects up there.
Yeah. So my uncle retired, and my father downsized the business. He de-risked the business.
Okay.
General contracting, when you have 150 employees, is an extremely risky business.
Yeah.
And as he moves towards retirement, he downsized the business quite a bit. And so he basically does a big project here or there. But he works full time for the Illiches, who own Little Caesars Pizza and the Detroit Tigers,
Gotcha.
and Red Wings. And they own about 50 buildings in Detroit. And they, my father works for them pretty much full time, maintaining those buildings. And so that's a pretty good gig too. They do all of their work on time and material. So it's a very less risky endeavor than general contracting, where you're always putting your own money to work and at risk.
So how did you, when did you start making this transition from construction related work and getting into real estate?
Yeah, so I started my first lawn care landscaping company when I was 13, and I grew that to be 250 customers, and well, actually about 400 customers.
Wow.
And when I was 19, it was a big business. I had trucks and vehicles, and we had 400 customers around Ann Arbor. And I wanted to go to the University of Colorado. Mm-hmm. So what I did is I took on a partner, and then I sold the business to that partner. And I got $250,000. It was $50,000 down plus $1,500 a month for 10 years was the deal I struck with my partner. Plus, I said if I bought any real estate, she would have to mow the lawns for a period of time for free. And so when I was 19, I hadn't yet started a construction company, but I knew a little bit about it. And so I bought my first property when I was 19. I bought a 5-unit apartment building in Ypsilanti, Michigan, where Eastern Michigan University is. And I became homesick, so I left the University of Colorado and I enrolled at Eastern, and that's why I was at Eastern, and that's why I bought that building.
Okay.
And then the next building, I bought a 3-story, 5,000 square foot commercial building downtown that was connected to 4 other buildings. And I partnered up with those owners, and we all ponied up our real estate, and we turned it into one project. And JC Beal Construction, my father's construction company, did the renovation. It was about a $3 million renovation. And so I was the superintendent on that project. So I worked on that project every day for 9 months. That's the only project I've ever been a superintendent.
Yeah.
And I learned quickly I didn't want to be a superintendent, because when you're a superintendent on a construction site of that size, you're basically just babysitting subcontractors who are very uncooperative. And the project was of a size that these subcontractors are not there every day. So like they're going to be there on Tuesday, but then they're not there on Tuesday. Well, are you going to be here on Wednesday? Yes, I'll be there by 1. Like, hey, it's 1. Where are you? Oh, something happened. I'll be there on Thursday. I'm like, no, you got to be here today, because tomorrow this has got to happen. And so it was a really great learning experience, and I just found it wasn't for me. So that's the only time I have been a full-time superintendent. But yeah, that's why I value superintendents so much, is that they have a very hard job.
Well, Davis can speak on that, because he's the superintendent for Brassfield and Gorey, so he deals with that every day. He knows exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I'm
right.
not quite there, but
almost. He's kind of there.
Yeah, I got a few years till I get there, but I understand. Whenever you started saying that, I was like, okay, I know what you're talking about.
Right.
I think it's funny the different sizes you're talking about, because I know he's on a large project. He's on a courthouse down there in New Orleans, and so the scale is definitely different, because that's like an everyday type of project. You have to be there, and you know, you have a schedule to come into. But what you're talking about is kind of a smaller project where it's like, well, we have a project over here that we got to go to, but then we have yours as well. And so it's kind of like just hopping from job to job, and it's just frustrating at times.
Yeah, and you know, these subcontractors would intentionally book work that way so they wouldn't run out of work, but it's just kind of frustrating to try to get your work done. So when I was 19, I bought my first piece of real estate, and I used up all the cash that I had, and so I realized that I would need to make additional money in order to continue to invest in real estate. And I had just done that superintendent gig, which I, you know, didn't enjoy as much as I thought I would. So I started a demolition contracting business in 2006.
Wow.
And demolition contracting is great work. There's a ton of work. It's unlimited work basically, and it was work that I knew how to do personally because I had worked for my father's company, and so it like was well suited for me in the beginning. And I grew that business from 2006 to 2016 from sales in the first year of like 110,000 to doing about $10 million a year worth of demolition work. And we employed as many as 100 and I think the busiest day ever was we had 196 demolition laborers working for us. And we were doing work in 7 states. I owned 3 or 4 excavators. I had 4 or 5 project managers, 4 or 5 estimators. So it was a pretty big, robust business.
Wow.
And we specialized in schools. Schools have unlimited money basically because they do bond issues and they're always renovating their buildings. So, you know, doing demolition in schools was a big business. And then we also did work at universities, hospitals. You know, we'd even do work in people's private homes if they needed some demolition done.
Yeah.
And demolition, I thought was a good business through the recession because there was unlimited labor available. Anyone within a matter of a day or two, I can turn into a pretty decent demolition labor if they want to work hard. And so we didn't have like huge skill shortages all the time. You know, we could train people in. And then of course we did very complex demolition as well that did require extremely skilled people. And so we went out and got those guys, excavator operators, saw, you know, electric saw, gas powered concrete saw cutting guys. Yeah, and we did some, you know, small projects, and we did some huge projects. We had one project where we had 85 guys work for 6 months straight.
Wow.
You know, on a demolition project. Yeah, gutting a 36-story building in downtown Detroit.
That's crazy. Did y'all ever do any type of implosions, or was it just strictly excavator and that type of work to demo them?
Yeah. Never did anything like that. That's
crazy.
That's beyond me. The biggest craziest project is I wrecked a whole high school once.
Oh dang.
And so it was like a high school for 1,000 students. I mean, this thing kept going and going and going.
Yeah.
And so we wrecked a whole high school, and we didn't have enough excavators to do it in a timely fashion. So we had 3 of our excavators there, and then I subcontracted out guys who owned excavators, paid them an hourly rate for their man and their machine, and they worked under our supervision. We had as many as 7 excavators wrecking that thing at one point.
Crazy. So let me ask you this. So now, kind of have doing that, if you had to go back and start another company, would you start another demolition business, or is there another type of construction company that you would be interested in starting instead?
Yeah, see, now I'd go the opposite. I would create a highly specialized company.
Okay.
I would do like an elevator company or a big mechanical company or something like that, because the problem I had with demolition is anybody can do demolition, right? So your
a lot of people.
barriers to entry are pretty low for demolition companies, and also, like, you know, it was just hard to make money doing demolition. You know, we didn't charge enough for project management. We really couldn't. Mm-hmm. So you that's why I always wanted to think about starting an elevator company. I mean, when you see the bills from these elevator companies, you'll know why. But
Yeah, guys.
yeah. So I would start over with doing something highly specialized. Now, of course, I'm not qualified to do that, so I wouldn't do it at all. But if I was going to,
Right,
I would partner with someone or get trained in some highly specialized
cool.
Yeah.
Right. Stuart, I keep hearing the word, I went and did this project and I partnered with them, and I went to this project and partnered with them.
Cool.
You have to have at least from my perspective of me just listening to you, you have to be just a little people savvy, or just you're willing to go, okay, I'm going to go partner with them and figure this out. I'm willing to go partner with them. And I don't know, that speaks of the entrepreneur spirit. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that's one of the things on your website I was looking at. You got real estate, construction, you have entrepreneur. What is that entrepreneur ship in you, and like where did that come from? Is that coming from going to job sites and your dad was the executive and getting to see a higher level of construction?
Yeah. So I come from a privileged background. My father was a contractor, and my mother was actually a lawyer, and she ran her own practice for a long time. So they encouraged me in entrepreneurship. But even while I did come from a privileged background, I consider myself pretty much self-made, because they didn't give me money and things like that, but they did give me tons of resources and again, a very privileged background. And one of the privileges I had was my father's construction company subscribed to about 6 different business magazines. So from the age, my dad would bring them home. So from the age of like 8 or 9, when I started to be able to read, proficiently, through when I graduated high school, I probably read, it's hard to put a number on it, hundreds of thousands of business articles.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like, just think, like every month, like 6 different magazines would come home. I'd read every article in every one. And so I probably read hundreds of thousands of articles. And then I got into real estate investment books. And, people all the time say, how did you make your first real estate investment? And I literally say, well, it's like going to school. You read this book, and then you go implement the strategies that you've read about in this book. Mm-hmm. Now, you don't have the hands-on, so you're going to make mistakes for sure. But, these books give you a pretty decent foundation of how to do it. And so I read, again, hundreds of thousands of business articles, and then, 50 books about entrepreneurship and real estate. And that really got me into the entrepreneurial spirit, along with just seeing my family, work hard and be successful. And that's kind of how I went about it. Yeah, that's how I did it.
Are you still an avid reader now, even after you've started all these different companies and growing and learning?
Yeah, I would say that I have 3 daughters now. So I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And so the time for, thank you, and the time for reading, I don't have enough time for reading, for sure. Right now I work, and then I hang out with them, and then I work, and then I go to sleep. That's what I do right now. Yeah. But
life of a dad.
But I do subscribe to Bloomberg.com and the New York Times.com, and I have the apps on my phone. So I read a couple business articles a day for sure.
Yeah.
But the time to sit down and read a 300-page book, is not in the cards right now. But I should do more of it, because I really enjoy it, and it's really beneficial. A lot of the real estate books are a little too basic for me now, though. Okay. It'd be kind of weird. It'd be kind of weird to go pick up a new how to buy an apartment building book, because there's only so many ways to do it, and I've kind of
done that.
yeah. So I probably need to spend more time on reading HR books and how to attract good people and retain good people, because I've always struggled in keeping good people. Sometimes I'll lose a staff member and say, man, I could have done more. I should have done that. Should have done that. So I should probably spend more time reading about that than how to buy an apartment building.
Have you heard of the book Who, WHO, before?
No, but tell me about it.
It's supposed to go in depth about basically what you're talking about, how to keep, how to find, how to retain really great people within your organization, and just kind of grow them from there. So I have it on my bookshelf. I actually just packed it up. I'm moving on Wednesday, but it's supposed to be really good. And so I'd recommend that one, even though I haven't read it, but you can look into it. So maybe
Good.
maybe do a Blinkist or something like that. Just a quick 15-minute look over it. So
yeah, that sounds good.
Davis, I'm sorry to butt in. I'm curious about the real estate because I love real estate as well. I know I mentioned that when I reached out to you. It's awesome, you know, and I think I kind of see exactly what you see when you do it, just endless possibilities, you know. But when you picked up your first real estate book or just really started getting into it, kind of what was your thought process in that? You're like, man, this just makes sense. Like I could definitely see myself doing it, you know, and then you just take off from there is what it sounds like.
Yeah. So the a couple of things, like first, we live in a very like physical world where you can see the real estate. And that always attracted me more than buying stocks that or in companies I know nothing about or touch and feel. You know, like buying stocks in Starbucks, for instance. I've never really been to Starbucks. Like, you know, this it's not as attractive to me in giving money to someone else and let them doing their thing, like you would if you were buying stocks in Starbucks. So it made more sense to invest in something you can see, touch, feel, improve, work on with your own hands better. You know, every morning I have 100 properties I could go work on to make them better. And so that's what I do. I mean, I was working on this property this morning. I was working on that one this afternoon. Helping the property managers. So it's a lot different than, trading currencies or investing in internet stocks or something like that. So that was the first thing that's very, in a physical world. And then the second one is, by reading about business, you quickly learn that investing in real estate is probably the number one long-term foundation for wealth in this country. Obviously, that's become less true because of tech stocks in the last 20 years, but definitely when I started reading about it, this was again before 2001, before a lot of this stuff existed. So just real estate was definitely the way to do it. It just makes sense. Buy a building, it's going to go up in value while you're paying down the loan. I mean, the gap increases every day you own the property. So it just made a lot of sense.
Sorry, didn't know I was unmuted. That's my fault. We'll edit that out. But I Stewart, I have a question about, we've talked about real estate and we've talked about construction, and this podcast is one of the things we wanted to address was the construction industry is so big that there's different segments of construction. So real estate being a part of that, Walker and I are really looking into maybe in the future wanting to get involved in real estate. But for people that don't know, since you're in this market now in both terms, how do you define that line of real estate construction? Like for me, still, it's like a very fine line of, okay, you buy the property, but then you need someone to maybe renovate it. And then you got to go back and someone has to have the project manager, and what side is that on? So how do you delineate the line between real estate and construction?
Yeah, it's really easy. So I own a real estate company, but in essence, it is a construction company. I employ 62 people today, and 40 of them were involved in construction today. And the delineation is, in real estate, you don't work on anyone's properties unless you own them, or you have a management contract to manage them. So I constantly get people saying, "Hey, Stewart, I saw your company doing this. I saw your company doing that. I saw this that you did on Facebook. Can you come and do that at my house or do that at my building?" And I say, "No, I can't, because I'm not a construction company. I'm a real estate company. We only work on properties where we own them or we manage them for a fee." And the reason I say that is because you only have so many resources. And let's say you spend a year working on a property you don't own and you earn $100,000 as a construction management fee. Well, you could have worked that same year on a property you owned and not only saved yourself $100,000 because you did the work yourself or whatever, but now you've tripled the value of the property, and you've hit a triple a whammy, so to speak, in that you've improved the property you own and did the work yourself. And then the same thing with, I do manage properties for other people, and we do work for them, and we earn a management fee to do that. And the construction we do leads to more fees, leads to more leasing. And so that you get like a ball rolling downhill type momentum when you're working on properties that you own. And that's the number one problem in the construction industry, is you're always working on properties that other people own, you get paid a fair wage. I mean, I made a decent salary in my years in construction, but I didn't create generational wealth for my family by doing construction work for other people. I mean, no one who's doing construction work for the Illiches, who own the Detroit Tigers, are going to become the Illiches. They're going to be paid, well, of course, but so that's what I did. Is anytime I ever worked for somebody else, any money I made, I would invest in real estate so that eventually I wouldn't work for other people, basically.
Right. And really, what it sounds like to me, but by the way, you answered that, that was a great perspective. That's, to me, that's the best I've heard that answer, to where I'm easily being able to define it, recognize what you're saying. But what I was going to say was, it's really just like what any good businessman does. He goes and hires the people around them to get the ball rolling. He's still the one that is, okay, we're leading the team, but I'm hiring the best people. Real estate, like you said, you can be the person performing the construction and save you money in the long term because you own the property.
Yeah. Yep. And today we put 62 people to work. About 40 were involved in construction. So we had 2 men converting a 2-bedroom house into a 3-bedroom house by turning the garage into a 3rd bedroom. There's another garage on the property, so that made sense. That allowed us to increase the rent from $600 a month when we bought the property to $1,600 a month, just by converting this garage. It was a small 2-bedroom. Now it's a big 3-bedroom. And so, I had 2 men working there today. So that was a construction project I was working on today. Then a property I bought in Dundee, Michigan. It just so happens that 5 tenants moved out today, and we've got 3 tenants moving in to those apartments on Saturday, and then 2 we still need to lease. But 5 apartments vacated on the same day. So I sent 6 guys there, 3 skilled guys and 3 laborers. And, they tore out the carpet in 2 of the apartments. They doing the miscellaneous maintenance or cleaning, so it's a constant, renovation business, except you're doing it for yourself. So not only are you rewarded in the construction, you're rewarded on the leasing and the equity that you have invested and all the other benefits of real estate. And, I could be doing that. I could be doing the same thing in other people's properties, but it's not the long-term,
not worth your time.
Yeah. Generational wealth creation to do that.
Yeah. I see the common thread with most entrepreneurs is, one, they're just not afraid to go out there and try it. Just do it, figure it out as you go. And that's kind of something that we adopted for this podcast, because when we first started this 25 episodes ago, we had no idea what we were doing. You just kind of figure it out as you go, and you learn, as you do it. And so one question I have for you is, you've done, I don't know how many deals you've done, but you've done a lot by the sound of it, hundreds probably. And so what is one of the deals that kind of stands out in your mind that you learned the most on? Maybe one that you made the biggest mistake on, but as a result from that, you learn exponentially more than you could have just by doing smaller deals or doing something else.
Yeah. So I've done over 300 real estate
Wow.
transactions.
Awesome.
And excuse me, I've actually acquired more than 300 properties. I've done probably 400 now because we've sold some properties. And we've hit massive grand slams. So in 2018, I bought a 468 unit apartment complex, the biggest property you could ever imagine. We paid 21 million for it, and then 2 years later we sold it for 31 million. So we used 5 million in equity and then turned that into 15 million in equity in just 2 years. So that's an example of a, epic, once in a lifetime grand slam. Then I've had many home runs, many triples, many doubles. And then we've got plenty of properties where you buy it and it performs okay.
Yeah.
And you still own it. Maybe you hold on to it because you hope it's going to improve in the future or something like that. So we've got plenty of those deals too. Done some deals. When I say I use we a lot because I've always got partners and investors and employees and stuff. But we've done some deals that have lost a little bit of money where it just didn't go as planned, and we just said, let's sell it and see if someone else can do better with it. And then we can we can get the money that we use to buy the property. We can buy a property that hopefully will be a better project. But the worst project that I've ever been involved in, and really the only way to lose a ton of money in real estate, is to not have your building properly insured. And insurance in my business is a full-time job. And it's quite easy to intentionally or unintentionally have your building either with no insurance on it or have it underinsured, so that if an event happens, you're screwed. And so, the worst deal I was ever involved in, I didn't have the building properly insured. It was a vacant building. The quotes were super insane, and I was going to occupy it soon. So I just didn't have insurance on it for a period of time. And of course, that's the building where an arson came in and burned it to the ground. And we lost big on that one. And then we have also had buildings overinsured and they burn to the ground, and you make a ton of money on them. And so the number one thing I tell people is make sure your building is properly insured by working with an insurance expert or insurance experts that tell you not only, hey, the insurance is $500 a month, but okay, this insurance is $500 a month, and if this happens, this is what will happen. Or you can buy insurance for $1,000 a month, and if this happens, this will happen. And then you can make some intelligent decisions about, okay, if this burns to the ground, what do I want to happen? Do I want enough money just to pay off my loan and I lose my equity, or do I want enough money where I get my loan and my equity back? So it's a lot to consider there, but that's really the only way to lose a ton of money in real estate is to screw up the insurance. And one time I did. It was very painful, and I learned from it. Now I spend just an incredible amount of time on insurance.
I believe it. I mean, something burning, it will definitely make you change the way you think about a lot of things. That's crazy. So one follow-up question to that, for those who are listening who might be interested in real estate or want insurance on a building that they have, or, et cetera, what, in your opinion, because I'm sure you work with a lot of them now, is what it sounds like, separates a good insurance agent from a not so good insurance agent? Kind of what is the differentiator? Like, who would you work with versus who would you not work with, and what do you look for in it?
Yeah, so the number one thing is responsiveness and response time. So I buy 2 properties a month on average, and I'm looking at 20 properties at least a month on average. And I want to, before I enter into a purchase agreement, I want to know approximately what it's going to cost to insure the building. So I need someone who's constantly available to quote insurance. And I don't need them to spend 10 hours figuring it out. I need them to spend a half an hour getting an approximation, so that once we enter into a contract, then we can go out and get, much more specific bids for the insurance. So number one is response time. And number two is someone who's going to really look out for you and understand what you have and what you're insuring. So as an example, I'm working with this new guy. He's 24 years old. His name's Calvin. And we bought a 37 unit apartment complex, but it also had a big garage next to it. And so I rented it to an auto car club, like a high-end auto car club where this guy stores luxury cars, and he has like events and people come and look at the cars and stuff. And so Calvin put the insurance on the property, but then like 3 weeks later, he was like, "Hey, Stewart, what happens if this happens and this happens and this happens to his cars and he sues you? And, we should put this additional coverage in place. It only costs, $71 a month to like really protect you from all these different things that I'm thinking about." And I was like, wow, that guy's going above and beyond. Cause like normally an insurance guy will bind the policy and you'll never hear from him ever again,
Right.
So I thought that was pretty good.
That's crazy. I mean, I like the response time. I think that applies to, honestly, most companies as well. I've heard a lot of people talk about subcontractor companies. They're like, it's pretty easy to have a really good subcontractor company or any company in general, as long as you just answer your phone.
Right.
And I feel like that's most people. And most people you call, I know when I was working for some GCs and I'd have to cold call people for them to do different things. And half the people wouldn't answer their phone. So I'm like, well, they're either not going to get the business anymore. They're not going to get the job. Or, I know that like they don't really care as much because every time I called them, they don't answer their phone.
Well, that's kind of the weird thing. So in Michigan, the last month, it's been raining really, really hard. And so we've got some roof leaks, and the companies we've been using are really busy. So one day I went online and I went to 14 different roofing companies' websites and entered the contact us form. And only 1 out of 14 companies ever responded.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is like, why don't you just take the time to respond saying I'm not available? Because
right.
even that is above and beyond customer service, where I won't be talking ill about your company. Not that I talk ill about anybody, but other people would, saying I can't get a hold of this company. I can't get a hold of this company. Okay. So let's say you've got a contact form on your website or you've got a phone. You just update your voicemail to say, "Hi, this is ABC Roofing Company. Like many roofing companies in the area, we've been inundated with new customers. We're not accepting new customers right now. Please leave your name and email and I'll put you in my database and I'll let you know when I'm accepting new customers again." That sort of thing. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Not going to talk smack about that company. And the same thing with the email contact forms. You can just set it up automatically where it bounces back saying, I'm only accepting this type of customer. I'm not accepting new customers. It was so weird. But guess what? The one company that responded, they came out and they had technology that allowed them to quote the job while on site. So before he had left, I'd even hired him. I'd already hired him. He gave a good quote. So yeah.
Well, let's shift here, Stuart. I'm big on the relationship side, and I'm still just fascinated. You talked about growing up, going with your dad and your family and their family-owned business to you being in real estate and doing project management, construction, owning a demo company, to being partners with all these different people. We're going to go back to the partners thing. Walk us through, what is that like? What is that like going to someone? Maybe, I don't even know. Are you friends with them? You don't know them. You're just interested. What is it like going to someone and asking them, "Hey, basically, I want you to be my partner"? What are the feelings behind that? How do you go through that? What is that like?
Yeah. So the first thing I do when I meet someone I'm going to do business with is explain to them that we're probably going to do business my way. And if you're going to be my partner, but you're going to be investing in a mostly passive real estate investment, you need to understand that you're signing up to be a partner with me, and I'm very unique. I work very hard, very fast. But let's say you guys on this Zoom are going to invest in a 4-unit rental property with me in Ypsilanti, and I've done 100 of them, and I live and breathe them and sleep and dream about them. and you're going to be my partner, we're not going to have a conversation about if we're going to rent this unit for 900 or 950. We're just going to rent it for what I think we should rent it for, even though you're my partner. And so that's kind of how we do passive investment partnerships. Is yes, you are a partner and you get the benefits of the partnership, but you are investing in, a well-oiled machine that's going to kind of run the show. But in the opposite way, I own a Ace Hardware in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I don't say anything to the people that run that business. I'm a silent partner, and sure, I do make a few suggestions, but I let the people that have the retail experience run that business because I don't have any retail experience. I'm also a partner in an insurance company. And I invested my money. I helped the business out in a couple different capacities, but the people that are experts in insurance run that business. I'm also a partner in a landscaping company, and I definitely help out that business on maybe a weekly basis, not a daily basis. And the guys that are the experts at this point in landscaping run that business. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is you have to find people that are enjoyable to work with, because the second someone becomes not enjoyable to work with, you should wrap up that partnership. Don't drag it on. There's no reason to be in business with someone that you don't enjoy working with. When you see his phone call ringing on your phone and you're like, oh, that means you just wrap it up. And people get so afraid of wrapping up business partnerships. It's just money. It's just simple. If you guys can't agree to it, just hire a third party arbitrator to settle it out and be done with it. And I've let some drag on a little too long before. And also there's ways to get into a partnership that just spell out the ways you're going to dissolve it if you want to. There's like buyout provisions and stuff like that. So just be smart about it going in.
That's really cool. I mean, honestly, I wrap that up into basically trust the people that you invest with to know that they know what they're doing. And then two is just enjoy the people, and it's like those two things are pretty simple. You don't really think about that a lot. I've never heard that before from anyone. You're the first person I've ever heard say that. So I thought that's pretty cool. But Stuart, we're getting short on time, and like I said, we want to value your time and let you go play with your daughters and enjoy family time. But we have one question that we like to ask all our guests, and so basically, it's you have done a lot in your life. You very much have taken advantage of every resource and every opportunity. It seems like getting to hear you speak this short time. So kind of knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self if you could go back in time and tell yourself something?
Yeah, so I would say focus even more on real estate. So I probably spent 10,000 hours running my construction company for 10 years. I was in real estate, but I spent most of my time on construction for a long time. And I know this is a construction podcast, but I would say spend more time on real estate, spend less time working for other people, spend more time working for yourself. And that's really what I would advise people. So if you're graduating from college with a construction management degree, that's a very honorable profession, and I wish you luck. And go work for a big construction company and learn a lot, but keep your living expenses low, save up money, and start investing in real estate, and invest in projects where your construction training can give you an extraordinary return. So let's say you are an expert in carpentry. Well, buy a property that needs a bunch of carpentry and go do it, or needs all new mechanical systems. So you say, okay, I'm the mechanical expert. I've got a mechanical engineering degree. I'm going to buy this property. I'm going to fix that problem. So not only am I going to be paid to fix the problem, I'm going to own the real estate. And that's what I would definitely go back in time and say, focus even more on real estate.
That's great advice. Thank you so much, man. We really appreciate you being willing to take the time and come on here and just share a little bit about your wisdom and knowledge from your years of experience.
Thank you.